In this session, we're going to create an Android enrollment policy. Let's navigate here. Okay, we have two iOS policies here, but we obviously need Android, so we're going to select New Enrollment Android. Enter in the policy name. And then let's add a code. Now, as we saw in the iOS session on creating an enrollment policy, you can configure the state to be either active or inactive. Also, if this code is only relevant for the self-service portal, or if they can administer this or apply this code directly from a client. We'll keep the defaults. And in this case, we're going to use the Google shortening service rather than tinyURL, just because it's Android and we used tinyURL last time. So be aware you can interchange as long as the server is configured correctly. We're actually going to put an expiry date on this policy, and then let's save that. Now you can see the code here that's created by the server using the shortening service. Now what we can actually do is highlight that and click on Inspect, and then you can clearly see what's happening. So that short code basically transpires to be this long URL. So that's what's being passed to the clients when they enroll. And again, following our good practice from earlier, at least for testing, let's put the enrollment code in the notes. Now let's click on General. You can see here server address. Okay, that's pre-populated. This represents a server configuration for device communication. And here we're using XNet, which is a proprietary protocol that can also be used by the solution. GCM project ID, we need this if we want to utilize Google Cloud Messaging, and this would have been configured again in server configuration. Connection automatic. This simply means when the device enrolls or registers, do we want to actually go through the placement of policy and configuration on that device at that time, which we do. And there's naming based on a username, a device prompt. We'll touch on that in a moment. Okay, we want our device to automatically enroll into our group called Android. This is actually a dynamic group which would be refreshed by the server, but since this is a new device, we want to automatically enroll it as well. And then if you look at variables, there is one actually already configured, so it is going to prompt the user in this policy for a username. We could of course add additional variables. There's a limited set here for exchange. We won't use them in this example, but if you take note of the username, you can see that prompt is then used to name the device. We do have control over that, of course. But let's save that policy now. So that policy is in place. Now that we've set up our enrollment policy and enrollment code, let's see how that works from the device side. So here we have an Android, a Samsung Galaxy S3, and what we've done is we've used the web browser to navigate to our self-service portal. Here we've got the two options, enroll or manage. Well, it's a new device, so we select enroll and then select install, the first step, the CA MDM client. And you can see the download started. Up the top left corner of this device, we can see the download taking place. This is coming from the server. We click on that to install the CA MDM application. Click on Done. We're back to the portal. Click on Activate Enrollment Code. Select Submit. And here we're being asked to approve that we will allow the client app to act as a device administrator, which is Android terminology. You can see all the settings that we can control, which is great, very comprehensive. We say OK. We enter the enrollment code. And you may recall in our enrollment policy we asked, or the username was already set, So we're going to put that in and it'll be used for the device name. Click on Done. And now you can see our XNet communication to our server. Another important point is here there's a specific add-on to the client app for Samsung. And this is because Samsung has additional APIs that allow additional functions. And the client recognizes that and is allowing us to control those Samsung specific APIs, of which there is a specific config policy setting, which we will touch in the config policy session. And because we had connection automatic also selected in our enrollment policy, as well as registering, the client is now downloading, communicating and gathering policy and configuration from the server. So we'll see a couple of connections to the server taking place here. There we go. Okay, and once that's complete, we can return back to the client app. So now that our device is enrolled, let's take a look at it in the admin console. So we'll select the device and then use the inspector function to look at some details. So here we can see a summary of information about the device. It's a Samsung Galaxy S3. If we click on hardware in detail, we can see even more detailed information about the device. One thing that's worth keeping an eye on is the GCM registration. If it says not present, that could indicate a problem. We can look at app whitelist, blacklist. They're not configured on this app yet, but we can look at that when we look at configuration policies. Here's a software inventory, so this has been detected from the device. Connection log information,